Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Skip, aka Skip and Tosh, here, back again. I've got. Oh, wait. Oh, he is on this side. I got my twin here. Twin, say what's up to the people.
It's me. I'm here. What's up, everybody? Hope y'all are all doing well on this Sunday evening, afternoon, whatever your time zone determines. Hope you're all
Yeah.
doing well.
You might be over in like Australia or Asia, and you guys are in the future. So
Yeah.
you got to go backwards in order to enjoy this. Nonetheless, thanks for joining us. You know what we're talking about. You read the title, you saw the thumbnail. It's Jonathan Hickman and Brian Micheal Bendis' Secret Warriors, Volume 3. Twins got it right there. Read them and weep, baby. Thank you so much for joining us again. If this is your first time, why are you here? Go back and check out the first one. Don't be here yet. What's wrong with you? You're crazy.
Jumping the line. You can't jump the line. You got to do things in the proper order.
Twin has spoken, and it is so. But thank you for joining us nonetheless. We have been going through all of Jonathan Hickman's books that he has had published over at Marvel. Although we kind of went out of order, we're kind of rectifying that. For some of you who have been following closely, yes, there are two books that did not make their way up here, and I meant to run this by Twin and Ash, should he be able to join us, who is here in spirit. He is here in spirit and heart, but not here in his corporal form. Um, I would like to go back and kind of combine those two books into one because we did discuss them between us, but it was in a private Discord setting because I was not well enough to have my bones laid up here and jap my jaw with y'all. So there is the Ultimate Thor miniseries that Jonathan Hickman did. There's also the Ultimate Hawkeye series that Jonathan Hickman did. We have read those. We have
Mm-hmm.
discussed them. At a later time, I will try to come up with the date where we combine both of those into one. So you guys have a full Jonathan Hickman Marvel comics discussion all the way through, minus his X-Men. But we are going to do Hoxpox though, because Twin has not read it yet.
I
And
do want to read Hoxpox. I do want to try because I hear at least that is a worthwhile read.
oh, yes,
So
yes, it is. And Ash has read it, and Ash loved it when it was coming out. I loved it myself as well. So expect that in the future. But in the meantime, we are halfway through. We are officially halfway through Jonathan Hickman's Secret Warriors. So we will be finishing that. And of course, next after that is the Shield series. After Shield, we're going to jump into Avengers and New Avengers. And then after that, it will be Secret Wars.
that leads us in. I was going to say that leads us into Secret Wars.
Indeed, it
So,
does.
yeah.
So, Road to Secret
Exciting
Wars.
stuff.
Very exciting. Allow me to make a small adjustment before we continue. I'm going to close my door. Just that fast, everyone. Just that fast. Thanks again for joining us. Hopefully, you're here for the whole ride. But it is time. It is time that we jump into this Secret Wars discussion. How we normally do this is we will give our initial thoughts. From there, we will talk about 2 to 3 impactful moments of this volume. After that, we will have a bit of an open discussion between the people on the panel. And then after that, we will give our closing thoughts and we will wave goodbye to all of you beautiful, lovely people. But let us not get ahead of ourselves. Let's go ahead and jump right into those initial thoughts. So, Twin, as you were reading this here, Jonathan Hickman, Secret Warriors, Volume 3, titled Wake the Beast, did it awake you? You're not a beast, but did it awake you? Give me thoughts.
I enjoyed this volume a lot. I was even saying backstage. So the second volume was very much like a lot of action. It was very like breakneck pace. This one does have some action moments, but it does slow things down a bit more. It does open up this espionage side of Marvel a lot more. We have Shield, we have Hydra. Now we're getting into maybe some more of the Leviathan stuff. So there are some very exposition esque scenes, but it doesn't feel like it doesn't bog you down. It's not like, oh my gosh, I've got to read all these. Like, no, it flows really, really naturally. I like a lot of the building up that he's doing with the Hydra characters like Gorgon and Kraken and Madam Hydra. He's building them up as these like really powerful bad guys. And I was even saying this. I loved his Fantastic Four run, which was very easy for me because I've loved the Fantastic Four characters since I first got into comics. They were one of the first Marvel comics I read was Fantastic Four. It was a Fantastic Four title. So very easy to love what Hickman did with them. Secret Warriors, like the only character here that I'm really familiar with is Nick Fury. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even that familiar. Like I know some stuff about him, but I don't know about him as much as I know about the Thing or the Human Torch. Like so that's Fury, and then like all these other characters are underneath him in terms of how much I know about them. So he's taking characters like Kraken, Gorgon, Daisy, these characters that I know next to nothing about. Maybe some of them were created. I know some of them were created specifically for this. Like I know Yo-Yo was,
Mm-hmm.
but the way he's building them up and he's like evolving their characters as we're going through this, it's kind of surprising me. Like these are brand new, these aren't deep rooted characters in Marvel lore, but I'm really like interested in seeing how they develop these bad guys like Gorgon and Kraken and them. I'm really liking to see them, like how they're being presented here. They're presented as these big powerful supervillain bad guys. uh, so yeah, I'm really loving this. Volume 3, it didn't awaken my love for the series. That was kind of already done, but it did give me, it was like, hey, Hickman gave me some espresso with the first couple of volumes, and then volume 3 was like, hey, you've had espresso. Would you like some espresso with Red Bull in it? So kind of. So
Mm.
that's it's a nice little extra jolt to go along with my love for the series so far.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense. For myself, I kind of echo a lot of the same sentiments. Uh, in volume two, we had, we got some setup. We went a little deeper. There was some action. In this particular volume, though, volume three, the lore of really the conflict between like all four factions, because if we're keeping count here, we got obviously what used to be Shield in the middle of it, so we
Mm-hmm.
can say the Shield remnants, if you will.
Uh-huh.
Obviously the Secret Warriors. Then
Right.
we have Hydra, who we found out was had deep roots within Shield, and was kind of choking it out and working through Shield. We also have the Hammer group. Of course, that's Norman Osborn taking over Shield, dismantling it, and installing Hammer. And then in the last volume, we got Leviathan. Leviathan showed up. So now we've got these four different groups, kind of
Mm-hmm.
all going at it. Um, they're attached to Nick Fury, but I could technically say five because we even have the Howling Commandos, who once they defected from Shield,
Yeah.
which was actually Hydra. They've got their whole group, and they became effectively mercenaries, really,
Mm-hmm.
or heroes for hire, but maybe not always necessarily heroes. And Fury, straight up had to pay them in order to get them. In order to purchase himself an army because they're all going to war. So you've got all these things set up. And what Hickman does is he kind of builds out the lore of all of them a little bit, kind of gives you some backstory on, people like Gorgon, Kraken, individually, also their relationship together, why they're tied together. We already know a little bit about Strucker and kind of where he's at. At least we know, how his son is dead. We get more backstory for Contessa, and we
Mm-hmm.
find out, like where the origins of her family is, and how early on she was influenced to be within the spy community and espionage, some of her motivations. And then there's even some twists that we get from some of the other people that are in this story that may not have been on the forefront of the storytelling for a little bit. So Hickman really sets all this stuff up. It's almost like he went around and set a bunch of like landmines, knowing that like all of us readers are going to be walking through them. So there's going to be a domino effect here of of this cascading catastrophe, as all the pieces on the chessboard are getting put into place. And again, for us, the reader, we're just the richer because we get to see all this stuff play out, and it does play out in the most spectacular and fantastic way. So, and what else is cool is Twin. So remind me, you like me were one of the few people that actually like watched Agents of Shield TV show, correct?
Yes, I did. I watched it all the way up until I forget what season it was. The one where they go to space or the future or both. Yeah,
Both.
that at that point I would skip a couple of weeks and then get caught up on the DVR. But yeah, that around that point is where I started to fall out of it. But I watched it a lot up until then. I think it did really well with a lot of what they had. Like the first half of the first season, it was very much like Marvel bad guy of the week. It'd be like some D-list bad guy that you forgot. You had to go Wikipedia and look them up.
Deathlock.
But then once Deathlock was cool. Deathlock was one of the highlights because they would bring him back a couple times. But yeah, once the whole Winter Soldier thing happened and like Shield got disbanded at the end of the Winter Soldier movie, then it really kicked into gear and they started to do a lot of creative stuff with some of the characters. So yeah, no, I like the show a lot, and that's one cool thing about reading through Secret Warriors is there are names that you pick up, and then like the whole thing with all right, Daisy. I'm sorry, Agents of Shield was good, but it feels like Daisy in the show is like really watered down from Daisy in the comics. Guys, I'm sorry, I loved Daisy in the show, but then I was like, oh man, Daisy in the comics is like top shelf whiskey, and then the Daisy we got on Agents of Shield is like Miller Lite.
I'm trying to think of the actress's name because oh my gosh,
Chloe Bennett. Chloe Bennett was
Bennett.
the actress.
The term
And she was
cute-
good.
Yo, she was good, and the term "cute as a button" comes to mind. But let me tell
Yeah.
you, like she is what a button wants to be when a button grows up. That lady,
For real. And I feel
Really
like she could have done more too. Like I think that she could have hit the same level of intensity that Daisy gets in the comic.
Mhm.
But for whatever reason, the writers just chose to kind of play softball. And look, I get it. They don't want to I don't know why they wouldn't want to, but they didn't want to copy it beat for beat. They had extra stuff going on in there too. I remember they were trying to make the Inhumans a big thing for a while because this was when Marvel was like, we don't have X-Men books because we don't have film rights to X-Men, so we're going to make the Inhumans X-Men. And they tried and they failed. And yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of like I was even reading through this, like there's names that'll pop up like Alexander Pierce or John Garrett, and these are like big names in certain seasons and storylines in the Agents of Shield series. So I do appreciate that a lot. So you could tell where they took some cues. Somebody at the MCU, at least in the early days, was reading through some good material. So
absolutely, and that this was still at the time when Bendis was a part of the like the comics creative team that would assist the television and movies. So he was a part of it. So he had the influence to, introduce stuff that he had freshly created. So things were more quickly going from, comic page to right in front of us. Because really, if like after you read through this, effectively, you can see that the reason why they didn't make Daisy as hardcore as she could have been is because we were on ABC, which was maybe really only about like 3 ticks up from the CW as far as like how cute and relationship driven it needed to be.
Yeah. You got a point. You got a point there.
Yeah,
it wasn't like this isn't Daredevil on Netflix where Vincent D'Onofrio was slamming people's heads in car doors or anything like that.
No, it wasn't screwed. What was her name? Maya Alyssa or whatever her name is. Maya. What was the girl's name? His wife's name?
Oh, Vanessa.
Vanessa. Yeah, we weren't getting the deep Vanessa growls back then. But it's funny, like if you did watch that show, because I watched that show and I enjoyed it pretty much up until around the
Mhm.
time that Twin is talking about, where it basically turned into Doctor Who for like an
Yeah,
episode for like a season and a half. but
yeah.
um, but it was like, looking back on it, it was obviously Secret Warriors, but instead of Nick Fury, they just brought Coulson back to life and put Coulson as the head of it. He had the Nick
Pretty
Fury
much.
flying car and all of that stuff. So, and
Uh-huh.
instead of like Daisy being his Daisy, Ming Na Wen's character was
Ming
basically
Na
his
Wen was pretty
Daisy.
much his Daisy.
Right. So she
Yep.
was the
But then,
hardcore
but
one that was a little more hardened and all that stuff.
and then Daisy still had a Secret Warriors group. They even called it like a Project Secret Warriors. And it wasn't this exact team. They did have Yo Yo, although the actress they got for Yo Yo was a little bit older. I think Yo Yo here is like a teenager.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, they took a lot of cues from the comic for sure.
Mm-hmm. And and honestly, those are some of the most interesting parts about it, to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, so on to the book itself. Let's take a look at the text itself. So those are some of our initial thoughts. As we like to exercise those out, we do have to work ourselves back around to the heavy lifting of the book itself. So impactful moments is what we cover next. Twin, I always look to you first. What is your first impactful moment?
Well, I'm gonna start, and I believe it's even in the first volume or the
Okay.
first issue of this volume. I mean,
Okay.
uh, the Kraken. I kind of alluded to him earlier. He's one of these characters that he's on the Hydra Council, and Hickman does a really good job through this volume. He plants these moments in, and I think they're mostly flashbacks. They're like showing these moments in Kraken's life and how he became to be so integral, I think, to Hydra. There's a scene where they show him recruiting or talking to a young Gorgon. This is like, I guess, Gorgon's like first discovered, because if I'm not mistaken, Gorgon is a mutant, because I think he's on Krakoa, I think, in modern day,
He
and
is.
they don't let people on Krakoa that aren't mutants,
Correct.
because now the mutants are the racists. But but uh, but there's the scene, yeah, where he's like, it's like Japan 6 years ago, and Gorgon's like, he's blindfolded because, of course, he turns people to stone because he's Gorgon, and so Kraken's there, and they're talking about how Gorgon turned his family into stone, and so Gorgon is kind of apprehensive. We find out, Gorgon isn't a Hydra member yet. Kraken's kind of been sent to recruit him. And what I like a lot about this scene, it does two things. It starts to show how Kraken is integral to Hydra, like the role that he plays within Hydra. You see, he's kind of like this recruiter guy, kind of like he brings in the new talent. We see, like, a little later on, like, he oversees this camp where the new Madam Vipers or Madam Hydras are raised up, kind of like the Red Room with Black Widow, but for Hydra.
Right.
He's like, you see him like training all of these girls. So you see with him, the other thing I like about this scene is it calls back to something we saw in the last volume, which was the God Killer sword, which was a big part of the Phobos, the Phobos and Ares story. He gives God Killer. He presents it to Gorgon, kind of like as a signing bonus, I guess. He's like, "Hey, join us, and you'll get this God Killer sword." Um, and and so he's like, "What do you think of this sword? This sword was meant to make gods bleed." And Gorgon's like, "Oh, I would like to kill a god." And he's like, "I'm the Kraken, and I help people." This is what Kraken does. They say this several times. It's on the next page. Yeah, that's his whole family that he turns to stone. Gorgon's like, "I could do the same to you." And he's like, "Not while I wear this, son." And it's like, you can tell he's got like an older vibe. He's almost got like a Clint Eastwood type of vibe. He's like, "Not while I'm wearing this." And so yeah, he's like, "I want to show you this." He shows him the God Killer sword. It's older than memory. It's seen war on 5 continents. And so it kind of like builds upon what we learned about it in the last volume, where they're talking about God Killer and Grass Cutter. And so there's Gorgon. He's like, "I would like to kill a god." And then the very next panel is what Kraken, we see this said about him several times. "I help people become what they're supposed to be." And so he's like this guy. He's like he helps people find their destiny, kind of. And like that doesn't sound so bad. Except he's Hydra, and he helps bad people become the bad people they're supposed to be. So,
Right.
so it's Hickman bringing in this character I know nothing about. You know, he's not the Thing. He's not Captain America. He's not even like Red Skull or Magneto, where he's a bad guy that I know. He's like this new bad guy, this new villain that I know nothing about. And he's like laying down seeds and like, this is why he's such a big deal. This is why he's integral to Hydra. We're kind of building him up. We know he's a badass because he's talking to Gorgon. Now, granted, it's young Gorgon, but he could still, I mean, he's still like turning people to stone. He's still the Gorgon.
Yep.
So yeah, I really like this opening scene. There's several other scenes like as we go throughout the volume. You see him like talking to Baron Strucker. You see he's there when the Hive is created, Mr. Tentacle Monster guy. You see him, like I said, you see him overseeing this camp where the Madam Vipers are trained from like young girls, and then they like grow up through the program. So yeah, Kraken just being introduced and these different things they do with them, I really, really enjoyed. They really build them up as like as a threat. Like I really enjoyed that. I like getting to know a character from their inception or from their creation and seeing them evolve and grow and power up maybe uh throughout the story. So yeah.
Absolutely. That that stuff just made me want to have more, like just more Kraken overall. Going through that, I was like, oh my gosh, like where's the rest of the backstory about this guy? Like he helps people become who they're supposed to be. Like, but where did he get that from? Who helped him become who he is? You know, like and
Right.
just all that other stuff. I wanted it so much after reading the backstory and even like the mystery, because there's like this little kind of in between thing where there's the original Kraken, and then here comes this person kind of talking to him while the original
Mm-hmm.
Kraken is in his hospital bed, and
Right.
he pulls out the helmet, and lets him know like, hey, like out with the old, in with the new. I'm the you old and busted. I'm new hotness. I'm the new
I'm New
Kraken.
Hotness.
I'm
Yeah.
taking over. Basically, look at me. Look at me. I'm the Kraken now. He hit him with
I'm the
that. So
Kraken.
so yeah, it was just like
I
just
like that.
I thought you might like that. But yeah, it was just one of those things that just made me want to know even more, and that's a sign that the amount of mystique was perfectly left in place, because what do they say? You always want to leave them wanting more, and I definitely
Wanting
wanted
more.
more of the Kraken there. All right, so my first impactful moment is a very short scene, but I'll explain to you why it's impactful for me. There is a reason via the story that it's impactful, and then there's also a reason, a personal reason for me why it's quite impactful. So this is kind of earlier on in the book. So we go, and also to kind of back up what Twin was saying, the name of this issue, because the name of the volume is Wake the Beast, but the name of this issue is this blade. This is a blade with a purpose. So through this, we find out a little bit more of the modern day purpose for God Killer. We'll
Mm-hmm.
ignore the Daisy stuff for a moment, and we'll jump straight over to our Agarishima. I said that
Yeah,
right.
let's go with
I'm
that.
just let's
Yeah,
just
you
go with
did.
it.
You got it.
It's the Miyagi Prefecture, and it's the stronghold of the clan Yoshida. So the clan Yoshida ties to the Silver Samurai. So we see the Silver Samurai, who is a total badass. We see the Silver Samurai get thrown through that door window thingy that I need to learn what that's called. So
Sliding door. I
s-
something. Yeah.
sliding. Let's go with sliding door. Let's go with what Twin said.
Yeah,
And
sure.
we see him struggling, and the Silver Samurai is an amazing hand-to-hand combatant, as well as obviously a swordsman. A lot of us probably know him from his battles with Wolverine or Logan from Logan's time over in Japan. And it's the Leviathan who is giving him the business right now. They are giving the Silver Samurai the work. Of course, he is outnumbered. And, they say on your knees, Silver Samurai, which he already is. But, of course, he shouts never. He's not giving up, goes right back at attacking them. He gets some blows. But, of course, he's just outnumbered, so he gets overpowered. They want to know where this particular box is because Leviathan is after this box that we found out in earlier volumes resides with the current Madam Hydra, who's in possession of it. Now they do the thing, and this reminded me a little bit of Infinity War, where the Ebony Maw, started to like make things and poke them through Dr. Stephen Strange's
Oh,
face.
yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So I got some vibes in there. And of course, they ascertain through their powers and reading his mind through their tendrils that he is not there. The leader, that leader of that group of Leviathan gets pissed, takes Silver Samurai, and just mushes his face right through a wall. Yells at him again, "Where's the box?" And he doesn't know where it is. And that is that scene. So from a story, I think it's pretty obvious from a story beat why it's there is because Silver Samurai was initially in charge of, or he was in possession of the box, and now he no longer is. But from a personal reason, when I grew up, the Silver Samurai was like one of my favorites. I think he was pretty much my favorite supervillain. I like him, and I really liked Insaba Nur, aka Apocalypse, because I was really into the X-Men TV show when I was younger. But I was heavily into martial arts, many different forms of martial arts for a long time. I went and I practiced. And I also had 4 silver capped teeth when I was younger. So I was like, hold on, wait, like a dude that's into like martial arts and samurai and from Japan. And he's called I might have said Silver Surfer. He's a Silver Samurai. And he's like, I got silver teeth and he's like silver too. And I didn't find out about the Silver Sable till later, but let me tell you, that might have been my second comic book crush after I found out about Silver Sable. But Silver Samurai had it down for me. And I did know about Silver Surfer, but I didn't surf at the time. I only skateboarded, and that just didn't do it for me. And he didn't have a sword. You know what I mean? If Silver Surfer would have had a sword too, it would have been lights out for everybody. But Silver Samurai, he had the sword. He was a martial artist. He was a swordsman. And he would go toe to toe with Wolverine. So I really liked him at that. So I really appreciated how he was incorporated into the story, how Jonathan Hickman used him as a useful part of the plot. So that's my number one impactful moment.
Yeah, no, I like this. It also just shows like you start to get like these little teases of Leviathan, and you're like, oh, who's like I know Hydra, and we just saw Hammer, so I know who they are, but who's Leviathan? This kind of like gives you some understanding too, like how powerful they are. Like if they can, get Silver Samurai sweating, they've got to be some powerhouses. These aren't just like Boy Scouts with a bad attitude. So.
Nope. Oh no. And to go with the wrestling term, that's part of the other thing that worked for me is in wrestling they have the term putting over, so usually when there's a young up and comer, they'll use a very established beloved figure who's known to be a formidable wrestler and all that, and they'll have that person lose to put the new jack over so people hold them in higher esteem, like, oh, 1, 2, 3 kid, beat Bret Hart, like what? So that was obviously they were using the established, badassery and reputation of the Silver Samurai to put this new horde of Leviathan characters over and let us know what a threat they are in this story. And I thought it worked out really well.
Yeah, no, totally. I like it too because it adds to like the international, like global span of things. Like it's very easy, I think, to get lost in a whole bunch of scenes that, okay, there's this bunker and there's this bunker. And if you don't have wording, they could just be next door neighbors. But if you see Silver Samurai, you're like, okay, well, odds are pretty good. This scene's taking place in Japan,
Right.
or like when
Hmm.
they go to see Eden, when they recruit Eden a few books back, like Eden's from Australia, he's in the outback. So I do like the visual cues that it takes, like reminding the readers, like, hey, this isn't just taking place like in one location. This is worlds, like globe spanning stuff that's going on. So
Absolutely. Good point. Good call out, Twin. All right. Your
yeah.
number two moment. What you got for us?
My number two moment, it's actually at the end of this very issue. We kind of, this whole issue, you kind of jump around. It touches a bunch of different points, but towards the end of this one, it goes to, speaking of random shield bases and spy bases, this one starts out at a base called Hotspot. And this moment, it kind of goes over like a couple of issues, but you see right here in the middle panel. So little setup here. Nick Fury and Daisy, they've just flown from the United States. They're over here in Europe. And then we go to the next panel, and Daisy's like, where the hell are we? Fury's like, we're in France. And then Fury just like, no segue at all. He's like, when we're done here and we go back to the States, I want you to cut Sebastian loose, send him home. Sebastian, for those of you who are not super familiar with all of Daisy's team, he is the guy. He's a little chunky, but he usually wears the red cape when they go into battle. He's got like the Doctor Strange, the mystic symbols around his hands. He's
Druid.
he's Druid, exactly. He's Druid. Not super powerful, or seemingly not super powerful. He's magic. You think, he uses magic. You think he would be, but like Yo-Yo and Stonewall and Phobos have gotten a lot of the big action scenes. He's normally like in the background. I think he bumbles around it. There's a few scenes prior to this, and so Fury's like, "I want you to cut Sebastian loose, send him home." And Daisy's like, "What?" And Nick's like, I've read your reports. I've seen the results. He's a liability, Daisy. And now he's out. And Daisy pauses. She's like, I don't think I could do that, because remember, this is Daisy. She's not like the seasoned, grizzled, make the hard choices leader yet. She's still relatively new at this. And Daisy's like, yeah, he screws up a lot, but I don't think it'd be right to, and then they put a little bit of a pause on this because they're about to go into a conversation with some like other Fury's team. But like this whole series of events goes on through this volume. There's a scene in the next one. I almost wanted to dog ear the pages, but I'm like, no, I can't do that in this book. That'd be
No.
sacrilege. Uh, I need to get some. I think it's two issues. Yeah, it's one issue over, or two
Oh,
issues over.
okay.
Uh, it's called This is a Place of Testing.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
so like they're on an airplane and they're flying back from this meeting, and so Daisy's like, got a minute, boss? And I'll just start doing the dialogue. And if
Okay.
you have it, you can pull it up. Uh,
Got it.
and so Nick's like, Daisy, I ain't got time for this. And Daisy's like, no, listen, either it's my team or it's not. I know I work for you. I love it. And I know we're doing is important, even if I don't know exactly what we're doing at the time. But this is my team. You trust me or you don't. And Nick's like, well, you're saying the right things. No doubt about it. Fine. Reread your mission files, look over your training reports again, weigh how you think he'll perform against the lives of the people that depend on you to lead them, and come to a decision. So it's like, okay, Daisy said the right things, turn Nick's idea around. It's like, okay, keep the guy, but go back, make sure you're making the right decision. And you're like, okay, this all works. Everybody's happy for now. Daisy gets to keep her team together. Fury's going to make sure everything works out. Okay. Well, then we get a few issues later, and Fury's like giving this presentation to the troops. He's like, listen, you're all going to go to your room, and there's going to be printed instructions on where you're supposed to go, where you're supposed to rendezvous. So, they go through some panels. You see, like, Daisy gets one, like, okay, you leave in 15 minutes. And Yo-Yo and Stonewall, like, you're going to fly out of LaGuardia, and you leave in 2 hours, blah, blah, blah. So you go through the whole thing. And then when you get to Sebastian, I got the page right here. So you pull up on Sebastian. Actually, no, you got it right there. Ba-da-ba-ba. Might have to go. Yeah, okay, yeah, the very next one, the very next page. Yeah, it goes to Sebastian and says, Sebastian, you're a liability. You're done. Go home. And so you find out that even though Nick gave Daisy like the okay, you could keep him, he then goes around her because he's Nick Fury. Of course, he's gonna like have his own way. He doesn't compromise. He's Nick Fury. So he's like, go home. And so then you see, even it goes into the next issue. She's like, I thought you trusted me to make the choice. He's like, I did trust you, but you weren't making the right choice. So he steps in. So yeah, you see like Daisy's so mad, like her eyes are, it's like Storm. You know, whenever Storm's eyes go that glowing white, you know something's going down.
Yeah.
So
And like
you see like I love
rumble.
the clever use of the rumble.
Yeah.
Because that's what Quake does, right? She quakes things. And so I love that's like Daisy's getting pissed.
Oh yeah.
And you know, what about everything you said? And JT steps in. He's trying to kind of play peacemaker, hold her back. And JT, I'm going to get to JT. I'm going to get to him because I was rooting for him right here. He's like, man, let me tell you, this is some low rent crap, even for you, Fury. And Fury, like, doesn't care. He's like, everyone, he's like, everybody but Daisy gets out of the room. And then JT's even like, want me to stick around? She's like, I'm fine. And then Daisy's like, you said Sebastian staying was up to me. And Fury says, sure, as long as you were going to make the decision you needed to, but you weren't going to do that, were you? So I saved you a lot of heartache. Say thanks and move on. Like, dude does not have any emotions or any hesitation about this at all.
Cold-blooded.
And so this is, I think it's very cold-blooded. Dude doesn't have like his emotional nerves are severed. Like he's just like, do the job, go to the next one. And I think it's cool because like up till now, Daisy and Nick have had a very like surrogate father-daughter relationship. This kind of puts things in more of like a professional sense. It's like he's like, yeah, you know, we're cool, we're tight, but you work for me. I'm not seeing results I like from one of your guys. You weren't making the hard call, the hard choices that your position entails you to have to make. Right. So, you know, you're a little soft kind of in this regard. So I'm going to do what needs to be done. And I'm going to step in. He does what a father does. You know, one of the things a father does, he steps in, he makes choices when the kid can't make a choice for themselves or not make the right choice for themselves in some cases. Yeah. So that really stood out to me because up until now, like when I was reading a Bendis book, so this one's for you, Top Gun, Secret War. Daisy was a pretty prominent part in Secret War. You find out then that, you know, that's where I first read about her character. She works for Fury. Fury recruits her, being a daughter of Mr. Hyde. So like I know they go back at least that far. And Daisy's like super loyal to him, won't give up his location to Maria Hill or anybody. So, you know, Daisy and Nick are tight. This is like, depending on how Hickman goes from here, like I could see this either being something that it could be something that breaks the two, like fractures the two. Like Fury steps like takes one step over the line too much. And like now Daisy's kind of got trust issues maybe against him and it starts to fracture. I don't know. I haven't read anything modern with Daisy in it, really. I don't know if Marvel remembers they have her outside of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But I could see this either being something that they grow past and maybe it brings them, like there's a new layer of trust or something that gets that, or it breaks them apart. I'm very curious to see where Hickman takes it. But I did like this. I also like that it didn't all take place in one issue. It grows and it's like a slow burn. It takes place over a couple. So that is my number 2 series of impactful moments, kind of, I guess, or overall impactful moment.
Yeah, Twin, you picked a really good one. Fortuitously, mine's follows right after. So right there on the next page, Long Winter. Somewhere in Russia. So we're there, and that box that we saw, that we read about the Leviathan agents
Mm-hmm.
looking at going and pressing the Silver Samurai about, is in the possession of Madame Hydra, who we found out at the end of Volume 1 is actually Contessa de Fontaine. So, she goes to the Leviathan base with it. And we're thinking that she is going to hand over the box in order to get Viper back, because there was a battle in which the Gorgon was supposed to protect the Viper and look out for Viper. Leviathan came at him, and
Mm-hmm.
they were able to distract him long enough, beat him up a little bit, and take Viper into their possession. So the Hydra, all of the heads of Hydra, the remaining heads of Hydra, came together and were trying to decide on a plan of action. They all weren't able to agree, and Madame Hydra just gets up, goes to a jet, and kind of does what she felt was the thing to do at that time to take action. And there goes Viper again, yelling
Mm-hmm.
like, no, like, don't bring the box here. We fought so hard to get it in the first place, and you're just going to hand it over to, someone worse than, Nick Fury and Hammer and those guys. We see, I forget his
Dang,
name.
yeah.
He's the brother. He's like the brother of
I think
Orion,
is
and
he just like
just, hmm
he's the brother? Okay.
yeah, of Orion, just slams her head first. That was so brutal. And he says a
Yeah.
trade, and Madam Hydra says no. It is simply a gift from someone who has the ability to give such a thing to someone who has such a need. Is it functional? It is. No, 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 no. After everything I gave up to get that, how can you just let them have it? How can you betray everything you believe in? Oh, I have never done that, Viper. Not once. I am nothing if not loyal. And just takes out a huge
Uh,
cannon and just blasts Viper straight through the neck and the lungs and the heart. Just takes her out. So we're
dang.
like, what the heck? And so very pretty. Beauty with a black heart. It's all she ever was. Even so, Hydra loses another head. This is a good thing. She's just down bad right now. We'll be ready for the
Yeah.
rebirth soon. Good. Then I've got time to change. A girl's got to look her best for big occasions, doesn't she? And again, we see there, who it was. Underneath it all,
And
it was Contessa de
side note,
Fontaine.
side note, when she does change, she does look her best for that.
Oh, does she?
Whew.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Thank you. I think we're back at. I think is
Was
this is
this
this Caselli
Caselli?
again? I think we're back at
It
Caselli.
might. I think it is Caselli again. Yeah,
Yep.
I think so.
So after this, it does go into the backstory of how Contessa had some family that she loved that got blown up in an explosion. We come to find out that they were in the espionage community, and they were part of Leviathan. So all along, Contessa's backstory is that she was actually Leviathan this whole time. So as much as she flip flopped back
Mhm.
and forth and got with Nick Fury and all of that, she even kind of triple crossed Hydra, because the whole entire time she was Leviathan. Now, I want to kind of string two things together. We go through seeing, I almost want to give you guys a preview of how good Contessa was looking. But you know what? That's why you need to buy this comic and support the creators, and go ahead and
Mhm.
get yourself a copy, because let me tell you, you gonna want to
It's
see how
worth it,
good she looked.
folks. Go
Oh,
support.
it's worth it.
Support the creators, support your LCS, and then support your eyeballs because they will thank you when you see this.
And she surely will. So oddly enough, the next issue that ties these two scenes together is called. Well, actually, why don't I just show you? I can show you better than I can tell you. Bam. There we go. It is death and the
Oh,
dread that follows. So with that,
I didn't
we
remember that was the title. I like that.
See, and and shout out to our buddy Ash. That was one of the things that he had called out. The importance of the titles in this is actually
Mhm.
significant because they truly do, enhance or at least back up the story. So obviously, we know that Viper just died, but what is the dread that follows? Well, oddly enough, Hydra follows the beacon of Madam Hydra's ship. It is at the Leviathan base. You know what? Yet again, I can show you better than I can tell ya. Bam. So here we go. They are on the way to the Long Winter Leviathan base. Here they are, storming it. The Kraken, the Gorgon, Von Strucker, of course, and the Hive is with them as well, but he is cloaked.
Mhm.
Can you smell it in the air? Death and the dread that follows. Whoever was here hasn't been gone long. The base has been vacated in the last several hours. We discovered a couple of cloaked assassins squads. We've dealt with those. A more thorough sweep is processing. Over here. It's Viper. Check the body. See if it's rigged. Shot at close range. Yes, whoever could have done that. I found this, Baron. Holographic recorder. Someone left a message. Greetings, agent of Hydra. I am Orion of the Leviathan Horde. So that was part of what the box did. The box gave birth to or rebirthed Orion of the Leviathan. This is a message for Baron Wolfgang von Strucker. Please see that he receives it. Now awaiting voice authorization. My God, it's Victor Uvarov. Access granted. Hello, old friend. It seems that while I have been indisposed, recent events have occurred that may have caused confusion and possibly obscured my vision for my organization and our relationship with Hydra. In hopes of preventing further escalation of this situation, may I suggest a temporary stay of hostilities and a meeting to reconcile any differences that may have arisen while I slept. And while I have chosen not to hide the death of your colleague, I know that it does not lend itself to my overture having credibility. To this end, I am happy to schedule our meeting someplace where you have the advantage. Let's say the Crown in 3 days. So we have the Horde now in the forefront checking Viper as she's dead, mouth agape.
Mhm.
You cannot trust him. He is God's. And the Hive talks in the language that he does. And that's not it. So they take a little break
Yeah,
real
this is
quick.
where it goes through the flashback of her life.
Yep. So you go through, and actually, you know what? I'll just show you on double pages, and you can pause if you want to take a closer look. Because I forgot that we also got some background for Viper. So
Yeah.
same thing, kind of like Twin was saying. You see her going through her training. That's kind of like another version of the Red Room. You see
Mhm.
her fighting against with Hydra against Shield. You see her marriage to Logan. You also see her relationship with Silver Samurai. And then you see how she betrayed him, and that's part of what she gave up. What she was saying, I gave up so much for. And then you also see her again get blown away and die. Reliving those moments, as Hickman does like to go over things again, but this time from a different vantage, which I think is a really cool writing technique. And
Mhm.
betrayed to live and to die and to live again. Boom. So the Hive got his tendrils and his tentacles all up in her person, revives her. She comes
Oh.
back to life. He says a thing, or it says a thing. What is this? Impossible. No, never that. Indeed, El Hydra, the Viper returns from the forever dark. No, not Viper. Madam Hydra. Bro, I was just like, when I first read this, I was like, oh my gosh, Jonathan Hickman, what have you done? What is this?
Yeah. Yeah, this was something. Because I was reading through this and I was like, okay, this is like it's a spy story, kind of a war story in some ways, like an secret war story, because they are secret warriors. So it's like, okay, yeah, they're gonna have characters that'll die or get wounded, have arms cut off, whatever. But it's like, Hickman's not gonna do the whole comic thing where you kill somebody, they stay dead for a whole. I mean, because she wasn't dead for a lot. It was like one issue, maybe two issues,
Yeah,
something like
that's it.
that, and then boom. I don't expect like those comic book resurrections, because that's like one of the unwritten rules in comics, right? It's like if you kill somebody, they're not going to be there forever. Superman will come back another way. Wolverine's not going to stay. But in a spy story that seemingly involves like at least mostly normal humans, you're like, okay, dead is dead. But I really did. Hickman just has surprises like all up his sleeve when it comes to this story so far. And so yeah, this coming back and like now she's the new Madam Hydra because Contessa, the former Madam Hydra, is not with Hydra anymore. So I did really like this a lot. I thought it was really cool throwing and also like the new look, like the octopus head with the tentacles and everything. I was like, hey, okay, you know what? We're gonna lean all into this super villain look. I like it. I like it.
Mhm. Yep, no half stepping. Yeah, it was just
Nope.
I just loved how it all played out. Like talk about strong plotting and even stronger execution.
Mm-hmm.
Bravo, Jonathan Hickman, bravo. All right, twin, you got another impactful moment for us? What you got?
I do. This is another one of those like building up slow burn type moments. So all throughout this volume, and might have even seen like little bits and pieces of it in the second one, but mainly it's in volume 3. And I'm gonna see if I can't find us a good jumping on point here. It's
Okay.
probably gonna be in the second issue.
Okay.
I think it's in this is the place of testing. I think that's the issue where we
Oh, that's
start and we
right.
see it.
Okay. Got
I
you.
think that's where it starts because it'll be after Fury and Daisy land. No. Hold on now. Where are you at? No. Actually, I'm sorry. It takes place in the next one. Right after, yeah, where like Daisy's getting mad at Fury because he overstepped and fired Druid or fired Sebastian.
Okay.
We even see that scene that we looked at previously where JT is like, uh, want me to stay with you, Daisy? After Fury orders everyone out of the room. So my focus of this whole impactful moment, just while you're pulling it up, is like JT and his character arc. Up until now, JT has kind of been like he's kind of like the comic relief guy, or like he hasn't played like a super serious role. Like when they go to rob Baron von Strucker's bank, he's the one that like holds up a sign like "Give me your money and show me your like." He's like the crude humor type of guy, like meant to
Right.
add a little levity. Like he's sneaking around Fury's base and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But here Hickman's like, I'm gonna take this character that you thought was a joke. Actually, put it in planetary terms. I thought this was kind of the drummer guy, like kind of. There's some comparisons there. He's not really.
Remember, I mentioned that like last time. I was
Yeah,
like, JT gives off like drummer vibes.
he does. He doesn't play by the rules. He's kind of he's got kind of that insubordinate attitude a little bit.
Yep.
So anyway, so this picks up after Nick Fury and Daisy had gone over the whole Fury firing Sebastian. They're in a diner, and Daisy's like, "Sure, maybe the normal constraints of society aren't for me. I get it. I know my story. Can't stay in school. Can't stay out of trouble. So yeah, no doubt about it, JT. I owe Fury for helping me figure things out. But he makes me so. He makes me so." And JT's like, angry. And Daisy's like, yes, angry. I'm so angry. JT's like, go on, let it out. she's like, ah! And so like there's JT's like he's kind of getting Daisy kind of in touch with her emotions,
Yeah.
kind of
Right.
stopping her from becoming a full-on Nick Fury, emotionless, heartless clone. So
Mm-hmm.
we see like he's starting to build this rapport with Daisy, and like obviously like we're like, okay, JT, he's just flirting because he wants a chance to hop in her bed. And Daisy, surely Daisy's not going to go for that. Except that when we go a few issues further, or maybe like at the end, yeah, it's the very next issue where right after Madam Hydra comes back, actually, it's a little past that actually.
Okay.
Something happens. Yeah.
After the Fury dinner.
Yeah. So what happens after the Fury dinner, which which I'll have a word or two on when we start just discussing the book in general. But
Okay.
yeah, Daisy goes to talk with Fury, trying to get Sebastian back on like a second chance, and Fury's like, "Nope, not going to do it. The whole case is closed. Grow up, Daisy." That's literally like the last thing he says to her as he's walking away is "Grow up, Daisy." So at this point, Daisy's like super angry, and so she's like walking back to this little cramped apartment that they're all sharing, and she looks at and JT's like, "Hey, check this out." It's this fun scene. It's JT, Alex, and Eden, and they're all like, "Yeah." See, there's Daisy just like being super upset. Also, props to the artist. I think this is still Caselli. The way he like shows like the emotions in the face, like the mouth is a little weird, but like looking around the eyes, like just the anguish, the furrows, the like the furrows in the brow, like how her
Yes.
eyebrows are, like the anguish and the stress.
Oh
Good
yes.
call out to that face. I think even does a better job of it. So goes to the next panel. She walks into the apartment room, and JT is sitting there, and Alex is like, "It's coming to me. I can almost see it. 67." And Eden's like, "You're out." So you're like, "What are they doing?" So JT turns to Daisy. He's like, "You gotta check this out." Alex bet Eden he could guess the exact number of marshmallow. Like they're being boys. She left boys unsupervised. Super spies or not, they're gonna play a dumb game. Well, Daisy grabs Alex by the shoulder, slams him against the wall. And speaking of faces, the way he draws Eden's face there with the heart. and then just as good, not as comedic, but just as good as Alex's face. Like, why is he just like smirking? Alex can see the future,
Because he
so he probably knows
knows.
what's about
Yeah.
to happen.
Yeah.
He knows. So Daisy's like, "You better have meant every word you said, James," because prior to this, James was like, "I wanted to hook up with you. That's why I'm still on the team. That's why I haven't left you. I wanted to hook up with you." So Daisy's like, "You better have meant every word you said, James." And she plants one on him. And as you go through the whole rest of the volume, you could tell they've got like this new couple vibe that they give off whenever they're like in their downtime,
Mm-hmm.
like they're on monitor duty together and barefoot around it. It's like, oh, okay, this is all right. This is a little unusual for Hickman, but this is all right. Now we've
Right.
had our double cross. We've had our big double with Contessa, right? She was
Oh
first.
yeah.
We're like, oh, she works for Hydra. She's gonna betray Nick. And then oh, she's Leviathan. She's a triple agent. So I'm like, okay, we've had our double cross. That checkbox has been filled on the spy story checklist. The very, very end of this volume, though, they're in bed, they're asleep. JT's cell phone. Bzz. I'll even pull it up actually while I'm talking. I should read it better than I can recall it.
Mhm.
He goes and he answers his phone. It says, "Meet now." JT's like, "I've got to run out. I'll be right back." Daisy's like half asleep. Okay, hurry back. 20 minutes later at the Black Atlas bar, JT is like, "What do you want?" And this mysterious person that he's meeting, "The same as always. Tell me a story, Mr. James." JT stops and he's like, "When everything goes down, I want your word that you'll leave the girl out of this. No one touches her. No one." The guy says, "Young man, I'm nothing if not merciful." JT's, "I never should have taken that money." And then we turn the page. This is the last page in the whole volume. And you see it's Von Strucker. And he's like, "But you did." Oh, there was nothing we could do about Fury funneling the money he stole from us to Dugan's outfit. It didn't matter that we could track it. They're a wounded animal, crazy from the smell of their own blood. They want to fight. But you thought you were just being clever. I bet it never crossed your mind that Fury might have had your best interest at heart. Not one single time. And now, when everyone thinks we are weak, we have you. And you are going to give us everything. So, if you remember to the second volume, the past time we met, Fury and the secret warriors robbed a bank. And the money from the bank, we were told, was going to pay Dum Dum Dugan. JT wanted to keep some for himself. He saw an opportunity. He's like, hey, we're robbing a bank. There's billions here. I could keep a few. Fury's like, no. He tells him, don't do it. We find out, and Fury knows this. He knows the money is trackable and tainted, and Hydra can track it. He takes some anyway, and Von Strucker finds out, tracks the money to him, and now JT is like this mole for Hydra inside of Daisy's team. And I was like, he hit us with 2 double crosses. Like, Hickman, you mad lad. Also, because you spent like this whole volume like building up this relationship now. Like, okay, he's gone from being this goofy, lame drummer type guy who's just in it for the jokes to now he's like, okay, he and Daisy have a relationship now. Like, how is that going to play out with him working under her? There's a joke in there, but I'm going to restrain myself. And so like, and now Daisy has like this new leadership role she's going to. So there's like relationship and like character evolution that can happen there. And then Hickman's like, you know what? He's a mole. I'm going to have her in the relationship with the mole. And so it's like, bruh, and you did all of that in one volume. Like the relationship started in this volume. And then at the end of it, we find out that he stole money, got tracked by Hydra, and now he's their informant. Like, Hickman, bruh, I should be used to this because I know your storytelling pretty well by now. After reading a few different storylines and comics. But dude, golly, man, so good. So, and this is only halfway. This is only the first half
of his first Marvel series ever.
Yep. So, whew, man, I tell you, man, I'm curious. I need to know how this plays out. So, whew, I'm excited for the next one for sure, or whenever this unfolds, because of course it's gonna. But yeah, I'm excited.
Oh yeah, he only sets the dominoes up this meticulously. Like I said, to have them cascade and fall in the most beautiful, catastrophic, chaotic fashion. Yeah, I told y'all in this that there was going to be like a octadruple crossing, and I wasn't playing. Like it gets nuts. Like I remember the first time I read this, I was like, Hickman, you gotta stop. You gotta calm down. Like, yeah, I can't take all this. I don't know who to trust. Is Nick Fury even a good guy? I don't know.
Yeah. It's like this is like setting up your trust issues for when. Oh no, this was after Secret Invasion. Never mind. Secret Invasion got you being like, who could you trust? And then Hickman's like, oh, you thought you were done with the trust issues? Let me hit you again. So yeah, it's really nuts.
Did. Oh my God.
And again, these are mostly characters that I've never read before. I don't know where JT comes from. I don't know him from Adam, but now I care because you started this whole relationship with him that I was like, okay, this could be interesting. And then boom, he's a mole. He's an informant. Is he going to double cross? Is he going to turn out to be a triple crosser now? Or is he just going to go back to, is he going to like repent of his ways and go back? Is he going to pull a double cross on the double cross? Like, I don't even know. How many crosses is too many, Skip? I don't know. What's the appropriate number of crosses in a spy story?
Hickman found out what the appropriate number was and went way over that line. Like he was like, "Oh, you can do this many crosses."
And then he said,
"Hold."
He said records are meant to be broken.
That's what he did. He said, "Hold my Guinness." since it is St. Patty's Day weekend. And he just went all out. This is how you leave an impression. You get to it, you get a new job, you get to a new publisher, you want to be there for a while. This is what you do to show them, like, yeah, keep this seat warm and keep the money flowing, because there's plenty more where this came from. And that's exactly what he did. It was just incredible. And again, to show how closely they would like take stuff from the comic page to the show, when the whole Hydra thing, so their more watered down version of this, when the whole Hydra thing happened over at over in the Agents of Shield show, if we remember correctly, the I'm trying to remember what his name was. I can't remember his name, but it was
Ward?
Ward. Thank you.
The double crosser, yeah.
Yes, because remember, he was on the team, and then we found out that he was an agent of Hydra. So he was a mole planted within the team too. And who was he finally dating? She finally let her walls down. Daisy. So they even used Ward, as their JT in that story.
Yeah.
So just so much good setup, and I do think they did a good job of adopting that and bringing it over into the show. To because again, as comic book fans, we have a tendency, even though like our hand has been smacked I don't know how many times, we have a tendency to want to see things adapted exactly as they were from the comics into the show. I for a long time have like, I came to the realization that that's not actually a good idea, because we don't get anything new from that. All we would get is the same thing that we had gotten from the comic books, but just in live action.
Yeah.
And I know how, like, from the initial thought, we can say, yeah, but it's live action, so we get effects and we get this and we get that. But honestly, I don't think that's enough. I think it's good to include things and kind of have them have a little of an additional twist. So one, we already know, because we've had our hand smacked multiple times, they're not gonna adapt it exactly how it was from the comic.
Right.
But also two, they gotta water it down. But I felt like Agents of Shield did a really good job of adapting it in a more, I'm gonna call it, accessible. I think watering it down might be a little disrespectful to the people that actually have to adopt the material and work really hard to try to do so. But they did adapt it very well, I thought, and I thought it really worked out for the show.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would even add on to that, talking about how, like, we as fans want to see, or some fans say they want to see stuff adapted to the screen. More than half the time, whenever they do that, we always find something to complain about anyway. It's like, oh, they didn't get this right, or oh, the color was wrong, or anytime that happens. So it's like, yeah. So I agree with you. It's like, I don't need to see Civil War created shot for shot for the big screen, because it's like you said, it doesn't add anything new. It's seeing the same thing, and I think most of the time, honestly, the first take that you get on the comic is the best that you'll get. I don't think putting stuff in live action or animation, I don't think it adds anything. And like you said, it's nothing new. So if you want to take a story and use it as a springboard and like put in some different twists, I'm all for that. But like, even if you were to stay on something and like recreate it 100%, you're going to have people that are going to nitpick about something. And no fan is ever going to be 100% satisfied, I think, if you do that, trying to recreate something 100%. So
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah.
So let's see. Last impactful moment, we have Yo-Yo and Stonewall in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And
I like this.
Yes, this is a good one. So, and this is when I wish our buddy Ash, who is with us in spirit, was here in person, because
I thought of him while reading this, actually.
me too. I was like, this is what Ash was, this is what he was saying the story needed more of. And although I think some of his complaints were like, it would have been better if this came earlier on, But this is some of what he, I think would have satisfied him a little bit more. And to his credit, he did say, "Hey, I don't know what's happening in the next volume. Maybe they cover some stuff like that." Ash, thank you for staying open to ideas because they surely did. So he's saying you're going, and that's Stonewall talking. Of course, Daisy says, "I don't want to." Don't care. You're going. And she's like, "Dag nabbit." And Stone says, "Look, I think maybe it'll help if you can talk to someone you know, Yo-Yo, just talk." And she's like, "This from the great communicator? Like, are you going to sit there and pretend like you're doing fine, coping with your thing?" And of course, her thing is her, being 15 years old and getting her arms removed. She says,
Yeah, right.
my thing? What do I say? Hey, look, it's the new and improved me. What if they freak out? Jerry, I don't know what I would do if that happened. She's a young and impressionable girl. She's not fully confident. And he says,
Yeah.
it won't. And she says you. And he says, what's it going to take to get you in there? And she says, you promising to do the same? Okay, so he's got to go talk to his parents too? Fine, but remember that you asked for it. Now get out of the car. Okay. She goes and she walks up to the door. Do la ghetto. I never realized that was there. That graffiti on the garage door. Knock knock. Yes, I'm. Oh, oh my. Yo-Yo. Hey, Mom. And she holds the arm out, like elephant in the room. Let's just put it right there.
hmm
And that's
I
that part.
side note,
Mm-hmm.
side note, because I know this is a two-part thing. I do like how like her family calls her like that's like her family nickname. It's not just like a
A
team name that they
designation.
made up for her.
Right.
It's like, oh, okay, it's actually got like a little history with her. It's like what her family calls her because her family's got to know about her mutant superpower. So
Yeah.
I did like that.
Yeah, same. Me too. And yeah, it just kind of worked out perfectly for the story and added that additional like human element to it. Again, that
Yes.
Ash was talking about was kind of missing. I was talking about like, oh, look, she is a part of like, this clandestine organization. Like she has to have some level of guff or ability to kind of quickly overcome things, because I mean things are constantly being thrown at you when you're
Right.
in this line of work, when you're in the spy business. So, but also to make us feel closer to the characters and ground things a little bit, scenes like this were put in, and it's super important for us to have those things. So I'm also going to share the name of this issue because again, Hickman did a really good job of with the issues. So the name of this one, which is a continuation of that scene, is "The Old Order is Waking from a Long Sleep."
Mm.
And maybe that seems like in the yo-yo thing, that's not going to be so relevant, but it actually is, because Hickman, he likes to make things apply across a multitude. So,
He did this a lot with this volume. I think even more so than the previous two. He
mhm.
had like these story beats that would build up across multiple. Also, he's got more threads to tie too. So like there's the Hydra thread, there's the Leviathan thread, there's the Daisies team, the Nick Fury solo story. So he's got
Yeah.
I like with this, he did a lot of these like little short scenes in each issue that all build towards a big point.
And again, his very first series at Marvel. Like, who
Yup.
comes out the gate swinging like this? This is crazy. Anywho, so somewhere in southern Florida. Okay, fine. You were right. I was wrong. Oh, no, no. Okay, fine. You were right. I was wrong. This feels great. Uh huh. Everyone should learn how to drive a car. Well, yes, that too. Thanks, by the way. But seriously, you were right about seeing my mom. I do feel better. Human again. It sounds nice just saying it. I feel better. And hey, you will too, Jerry. Ain't the same thing, and I feel fine. Don't be so negative. It's a beautiful day. You're a kid, so occasionally you need a push in the right direction. I'm only doing this because I told you I would. Trust me, sometimes moving on is best. And you're a guy who knows, huh? Don't knock experience, yo yo. Lots of benefits to it. Yeah? Like what? For example, take driving. It usually helps to keep your eyes on the road. Yikes! All right, so there's that little segment, but we gotta skip a little bit. Ooh, actually, you know what? Let me tuck it away. I'm trying to be a little cleaner with these.
Skip's gotta skip a little bit.
I gotta skip just a wee little bit. Okay. All right, we're back
I
to it.
also I
Mm-hmm.
also like that because I felt like I don't know, maybe I just read it funny, but I
Mm-hmm.
felt like up until this point, it almost felt like Yo-Yo and Stonewall were almost like a couple in a
Yeah.
bunch of the scenes. But then I like how this because that would be weird if they were because we find out she's 15 and he don't look 15. So I like how this
No.
kind of puts them this puts them in more of like a mentor mentee type of relationship, almost like Nick and Daisy. So I like that.
Exactly. As much as Hickman isn't known for his character beats, although they're there if you care to look,
Mhm.
he does understand relationship dynamics, so he does create scenarios where relationship dynamics can be more fleshed out, and if not more fleshed out, at least more defined. And this trip that they went on for the both of them definitely did
Mhm.
exactly what you said. Twitted defined what the relationship dynamic was. She's definitely the mentee, he's definitely the mentor, and that helps us better place things in our minds as the readers, going through these stories and such.
Yeah.
And with that, here we are. So we are later. We're at the Lakuchi. Sure, the Lakuchi Supermax prison. I'm just gonna roll with
Gotta
it.
be in Louisiana somewhere. They got all these weird names down in the bayous.
No, that's out by Englandine. That's something that he might be familiar with this area. Let's hope he never does a crime and we have to go visit him at the Lakuchi Supermax
Oh my gosh.
prison.
Lord help us all.
I'm just gonna take Stonewall's advice and I'm just gonna move on past this name. So, um, I can't
Damn.
believe I let you talk me into this. Hey, relax. We've all got supervillain parents, right? I've been to prison to see my dad too. So what's the deal with him and your mom? When he attacked her the first time, he didn't have his powers yet. He jumped parole and she came home from work and he was waiting for her. I was born the next year. Oh God, I'm an idiot. Let's get out of here. No. I walked in the door. I'll be damned if I run out because of him. You sure? Uh huh. Wait, so if he didn't have his powers yet, how'd you get yours? Years later, he broke out of prison and decided to come see my mom again. I tried to defend us, but when we touched, I guess because he's my father, what ability he had gained transferred to me as well. I blacked out. When I came to, I was in the hospital. And your mom? We buried her the day I got out. Ah, the good old days. Hey, boy, that mother of yours. When I get out, I think I'm gonna dig the old bird up and see how she's doing, just for old time's sake. And we see that his dad is the freaking absorbing man.
Yep.
Again,
Which
mm-hmm.
never entered my mind. But then when he says it, I'm like, it makes sense because he's a Stonewall. He turns his body. Yep. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't put two and two together. Hickman had to do my math for me.
He's definitely the pal that you'd call when you were struggling. He will do your math for you. And not only the Stonewall 2 thing, we remember when he took an axe to the chest during that big hammer shield
Mhm.
fight when they were trying to acquire the helicarriers. that big Ares axe hit him in the chest, and then he turned into metal. So he again took on the metal
Right.
forming of Ares axe as well. So like father, like son, except one's a hero and the other one's a scumbag. Um, and not only that, so to
Yep.
go back to the title that Hickman was talking about, notice how many times he said old. You know, like the title was what was it? The old something with something something. I really remembered the title there,
The
didn't
old
I?
something something.
Let me go back and go over that real quick. So
We're gonna
some
race to find it.
boom 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 boom
That's
boom
Death
boom.
and the Dread that follows.
Yeah, we go further back.
Nope. It's come on
Uh,
now.
we're gonna meet in the middle.
Place of testing.
In place of
Here we go. I
testing.
got it. This has got to
Got
be
it.
it. The old order is waking from a long sleep.
And I don't know how long Absorbing Man had completely been out of the thing. And again, like, look how many time old got used. Hickman is very intentional
Yeah.
with the words that he uses and such. So as soon as the Absorbing Man gets on the scene, the good old days.
Mm-hmm. That's one.
The old bird and see how she's doing just for
Mm-hmm.
old time's sake.
That's three.
Threes. Boom. So,
Yep.
yet again, Hickman doing Hickman things, and us, we're just basking in it all. That was
Yep.
my impactful moment as someone who does not have the best relationship with his dad, but very much has to acknowledge like I look like him, I got teeth like him, I'm like quick-witted and sharp like him. I'm a little bit of I can be kind of type A and drill sergeant-y sometimes like him. Uh, I gotta look in the mirror and I gotta accept those things, and this really resonated with me because I got to see someone kind of have to do the same thing. And, and he really did face it. He even said, like, I'm not leaving now just because of him. Because he wasn't completely
Mm-hmm.
there for his dad anyway. He went there to face his own demons and look him in the face. Stonewall went there, like, although the Daisy thing was a part of it, because he committed to it, he was keeping his word, and he was going there for himself at that point, not for his dad.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. This is another. I like it because it is also. It's like the first scene with Yo-Yo and her mom. It adds that human element. It's like, okay, these are not just you know emotionless or family. It's not like Nick Fury's ragtag orphan team. Like these are all people that have family relationships, either for good, like Yo-Yo has a mom that clearly loves her and cares about her, or Stonewall, where his dad is freaking absorbing man and a piece of trash.
Yep.
Good or for ill, they all have relationships, and I like how Hickman is like slowly, like we saw in volume 2. There's the whole thing with Ares, or not Ares, and his son Alex. We saw that. JT's been getting built up. Druid, I don't know if we're gonna see him anymore, or if Hickman just got tired of him and it's like I can't do nothing with this. Let me have Fury fire him. I don't know. We'll find out as the story goes. But if that's the case, then good on Hickman for not wanting to leave any character just in the background. Like actually wanting to give each character a role and have them develop. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And that concludes our impactful moments of the series. So, we like to open it up. We don't want to just leave it to just like these scenes. There's some connective tissue. There's other scenes that might not have fit into there that we want to highlight for different reasons. So that's what we have this segment for. Twin already has some cock loaded and ready to go. So my twin Zach, what are some of those ones that you wanted to share with the folks?
Man, let me tell you something. Let me tell you. The first thing that got me. So we talked a little bit about Hickman with his graphs and the things that he does. Not the comic pages, but like the graphs, or not even graphs. Like sometimes it'll just be like these lists, these like listicle kind of things, like Nick Fury's emails or his contacts. They actually had this a lot in the Secret War book that Bendis wrote. I had a special, like a hardcover collection that had like Fury's backup team that he would have recruited and things like that. I love that kind of stuff. I think with the spy story, it adds like extra flavor to it. But anyway,
Definitely.
I'm getting sidetracked here. Um, at some point in this volume, I think it's in the first issue or two, Nick Fury's having a meeting with Daisy, who is the leader of what he calls Team Gray, and then there's Alexander Pierce and his son Michael Pierce, who are the leaders of Team Black and Team White. So Fury's got not just Daisy and her team of superpowered spies, he's got two other teams of superpowered spies running around. And there's a scene, it's not like super impactful, doesn't have a lot to do with the story. I think it's actually the next time they appear. It might be the next issue over.
Okay.
There's one of those things where Hickman's like showing panels and then like, here's their name and here's what they do. So it's like, this is Daisy, leader of Team Gray. And then it lists all the team members. So you can see like, Stonewall or Yo-Yo Rodriguez, and it goes down the line. And then there's the same thing for Alexander Pierce and Michael Pierce. And it's like Team Black and all the names of Team Black. Team White, all the names of Team White. And you're like, well, these are just random names like John Smith or, Susie, whatever. And that's what you think though. But actually, if you go back to volume 1, somewhere in volume 1, Hickman has this whole list of what Nick Fury calls caterpillars, which are like these secret, these people with powers that he wants to like grow into like these superpowered spies. And if you go look at that list, all the names on that list are in these other two spy teams that Fury has Alexander and his son Michael leading. So I don't know that we'll ever see these characters. I don't know, maybe there's 3 other volumes of this, so who knows. But I thought that was really cool that I could actually go back and look up the names and see like, oh, okay, well, because like here's a guy who can fly, or here's a guy who has like ice control or whatever. And you can find, it's kind of like just a neat little extra flavor if you want to find out like who are what the superpowers are on these other 2 secret spy teams he has running around. You can go look and you can find that. So I thought that was really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really liked that too. It was a nice touch. Yeah, just to see like how much thought way ahead of time Jonathan Hickman had put into it, and things that you don't feel like are gonna be like mean as much up front. Like if you do just
Mm-hmm.
kind of give them a quick once over, at least just to get the info in your mind, you realize like, oh snap. And when there's a series going on and I'm going through it and something happens later on that makes me go and open up a previous issue again, I really feel like I'm getting more than my money's worth. I feel like if I'm entertained by the issue, well enough, I feel like I got my money's worth. If you make me open it up a second time, now I'm getting more of my money's worth. Because in my mind, if I open it and close it and my time, like it was worth my time and my money, you're good. If you
Mm-hmm.
make me go open it up again, now you're doubling my dollars worth. And I really, really, really appreciate that. And Hickman absolutely did that with how he had set this up. Was there another thing too that kind of stood out to you that you wanted to kind of talk about or share?
Yeah. So something else that I kind of noticed on kind of ties back to your last impactful moment. You know how like Stonewall is absorbing man's son, and they even Yo-Yo says that her dad is a supervillain. And so I read that and I was like, well, who's Yo-Yo's dad? Because I didn't think that they had addressed it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was kind of going back, and actually, if you go back, so I have the complete collection. This is volume 1 of the trades. If you go back, the trades, they do this thing where they collect all these different variant covers and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this really cool picture back here. There's this art by Carlos Pacheco, who I'm a fan of his art. It's called the Parent variant. And what it has, it's got Mr. Hyde. It doesn't have Absorbing Man on it. I think was before it was revealed that Absorbing Man was Stonewall's dad. But it does have the Phantom Rider, who's an older villain, and then the Griffin, who's one of those weirder Avengers villains. The Griffin is actually Yo-Yo's dad. And then I'm not going to spoil who Phantom Rider. He's not anybody's dad, but he's somebody's descendant or somebody is his descendant rather. So I kind of liked how this like theme he has going where like almost all of his secret warrior team, their offspring or descendants or great or whatever of these supervillains, of these bad guys. I like that because I like redemption in storytelling. I like second chances. I like, that was a really cool thing I liked about Daisy was her dad was Mr. Hyde, this like bad guy who's gone toe to toe with Avengers, and but she doesn't have to be like him. She could be a good guy. She could be a hero and help save the world and kind of bring some balance back into things. So I appreciated that, not just with Daisy, but like with all these other characters. Because
Yep.
even
Phobos too.
Alex, we know Phobos. Yeah, his dad is Ares, who's on Norman Osborn's Dark Avengers replacement team. So yeah, really really cool. I thought.
Absolutely. Oh, and I did find the page that you were referencing for the things that you had shared a moment ago. And this
There
was
it
the
is. Yep,
part that he was talking about. So where they had
that's
Tim
it.
Black, Alexander Pierce, who, if that
Mm-hmm.
name sounds familiar to most people who haven't read this, especially if you're an MCU fan, that was what
Robert
our
Redford's role.
thank you, Robert Redford's role. So there goes
Mm-hmm.
that one there. And then you
Yep.
had
Uh,
there goes Team White, Daisy with all the people that we know, Sebastian Druid
Yep.
out, and then we have
Yep.
Team Gray, which is Nick Fury's son. So again, there goes parent. That's why on the parent variants, that's probably why Nick Fury is
Oh,
on the
that's right. It's
front
Nick
because
Fury's.
he's
It's Nick
Michael Fury's
Fury's son, not
dad.
Alexander's son.
Yep, yep,
Michael.
Mikhail.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep,
right. Okay.
Michael
I
or
got my
Mikhail,
father's
however you
sons
want to
mixed
do it.
up. Okay.
Yep, but there goes all of his as well. So that's what kind of played into
Very
that.
cool. Yeah.
In keeping with, oh no, what
Yes,
were you
if you
gonna
think
say?
those
Go
are
ahead.
just random names.
Hmm.
Oh, I was just gonna say, in case you thought those were random names, you go back and like the first volume as you're flipping through, there's like a list of names, and all of those names are on that list, and you like their name, their power, how high their power is, and like how important they are to the team. So I thought that was really cool.
Absolutely.
So
I got mostly one to share, and the reason why I love this,
okay.
Jonathan Hickman's Shield series might be. I'm not saying this is best, but it might be my personal favorite of all of his Marvel books. Just because there's some
Mm-hmm.
well, you know what, well, yes, I'll say this, there's some ties in there that I think really go a long way. I didn't realize I didn't send this chat to Squigs, by the way. Sorry, Squigs, I was supposed to send you your flowers, and I didn't even leave them on the doorstep. I left them in the car and I just drove off. Goodness mercy me. But so we have here, we see that they're meeting in, there's the setting of Italy, and it says
Mm.
far below ground, Pieta. And you notice that they're all around this table. Dum Dum, Garrett, Professor, Last Chance to Pull Out. So obviously, what they're getting ready to talk about is super serious. And, they talked about how they've long prepared and we have systems in place and all of that stuff. I'm getting old waiting, let's call it mercy and finally settle up. So they're getting ready to talk about some really heavy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you notice that they're around this table and it says, and this is the end of the road. And you notice the end of the road, they're at this circular table and there's all these symbols and they're at this thing that's almost like a wheel. So Nick continues to talk,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just saying, hey, say your prayers, because this is, things are about to get crazy. Now I'll leave it there because we go to a different scene to end it. But that doesn't seem like, well, let me just ask you, Twin, because we're in an open forum. We can like have a conversation about this. What
Yeah.
did that scene mean? What did that scene mean to you?
So another one of the graphs that Hickman had, it was like this 2-page thing where like there were a whole bunch of these leaders in the Marvel espionage community. Each one had like a different horoscope title. Like I think Nick Fury might have had Gemini or something like that. Of course, Zodiac would be his twin. So you had several other names on there that all had like corresponding titles. So I assumed that this, whatever this was, I saw the symbols on there. It's like, oh, maybe each one corresponds to a different, if it's not like just the same thing that Hickman had, it's something similar where it's like, okay, this is might be where all the different heads of the SP, that's it right there. That's the one. So yeah, like each one, there'd be a different person that has a different title, whether or not they're alive or not, what organization they work for. So yeah, I was kind of curious. So it's like, wait, are you telling me that somebody at Hydra would actually sit at the same table as somebody with Shield or Leviathan or some independent or contractor or whatever? I thought that was really really unique. But yeah, I'm really curious about it.
Hold that thought for just a second.
Alrighty. And actually, I'm going to see if I can't, because I know Nick Fury's got a name up there. I believe Dum Dum Dugan's name is on there as well. And Fury's twin, his twin brother, Jake Fury is up there. He's Scorpio. Baron Strucker's name is up there. Kraken, Orion, who we find as the leader of Leviathan, his name is up there. John Garrett, who was there in that panel that Skip just had up. A few other names on here that haven't come into significance just yet. Some names on here that are deceased, like Jake Fury. But yeah, it's curious. Very curious.
On that note, thank you for pointing all that stuff out. Far more important than we realized. And you already made a point earlier about the graphs that we had gotten earlier on, like in the first volume, and we didn't know. And then, in this volume, 2 volumes later, we got the rundown of those teams, and we realized some of those names were, a part of the Caterpillar thing and all of that. The last volume, volume 6, no spoilers, but the last volume, volume 6, is called Wheels Within Wheels. And you can see right there in the back of Nick Fury, and this awesome, I think this is Adi Granov. No, it's not Adi Granov. Kind of look like it. But you can see that because this is called the Great Wheel. We saw that in the, on the last thing that we're in.
Okay.
This one is called Wheels Within Wheels.
Yeah.
So if we already didn't get the sense that, there's all this triple crossing and double crossing and this crossing and that crossing. And Hydra was inside of Shield, but Leviathan was inside of Hydra. And Shield got wiped out for Hammer. If we already didn't have enough of this, I'm telling you guys, it's not over. We have the Great Wheel here. And the last volume, and we know the names mean something, right? Like the issue names mean something. We know the series names mean something. Obviously, this volume 3 was called Wake the Beast, and obviously Orion was reborn. He was awakened, right? So there goes that redeems the title.
Right.
Wheels Within Wheels. So within the Great Wheel, and you can even see it within the design. If you look at the design right now, I wish I almost had like a cursor that I could flash around, but we see that there's, the white outline. And if you notice, there's 3 outer layers to that, one on the Shoji Soma, one on Jake Fury's, and the other one on Cornelius Van Lunt. And then inside of that, we got an additional kind of, wall where some of them are separated and others are solid. And then you get to the actual, kind of sign, zodiac sign type things. And then inside of there's an additional few quadrants of white. And then you've got the black circle that kind of doesn't fully finish. Then you got the gray one inside of that doesn't fully finish. And then you got the red one inside of that doesn't fully finish. Then you got the white one inside. And then inside we've got another one. And then we've got another one. And then, finally we eventually get to the star and all that. So it really should be called Wheels Within Wheels Within Wheels Within Wheels, but it's hard to fit that. That would make the font really tiny. So Wheels Within Wheels is the brevity. It
also looks like each thing, like some of them will have like that little white barrier towards the top of it too. So it's like you ever see like some of those like like keys almost, where like the outer part will rotate one way, even
Yep.
though the inner part is supposed to like, do some of them like just switch factions like at the drop of a hat? Like, it's very, very curious. And this is one thing where like I like this. And so I'm reading the modern, the Captain America Sentinel of Liberty that's out right now.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly, I think.
Yep.
And it's all right. It's not Ed Brubaker's Captain America, but it's all right. It's entertaining. But it's like they're trying to like rewrite who the higher ups are in like these organizations that run the world. And I'm like, it kind of flies in the face of this. And I'm just like reading this now, and I'm like, guys, what are you doing? It's like that grimacing face, like, what are y'all doing? Now, I don't, maybe they've got a card up their sleeve and they're saying, hey, by the way, we're going to build off the Hickman's thing. We're going to make it mesh. I don't have faith that that'll happen. Maybe. But yeah.
Maybe.
I like that. I like this though. I like this one. This is the version that I like.
Oh, yes. And all I will say is wheels within wheels. But, excuse me, even when we get there, because if you're like, oh, I got to read through the whole wheels within wheels to even, like, no. What I was just talking about, remember where they were when they discussed this stuff. As soon as we get into wheels within wheels, you're going to be like, oh, okay. And then and same thing with the Shield series, like as soon as we start the Hickman Shield series, because obviously he wanted to do stuff with Shield, but since Shield was dismantled, he
Right.
chose to, go back and talk about, well, I won't say what he's talking about, but he chose to approach it in a certain way. As soon as you get into that book, you don't get more than 4 pages in, and boom, they're already, like, you see the immediate, obvious, instant connection. It's amazing.
Nice.
I'll leave it there.
Very
Anywho,
cool.
That's all I had to share. That was it. That's all I had for this one. Anything else, Twin, before we go to our conclusion?
One last little thing that I liked, and I don't know, maybe it's just like the modern news sphere, or like modern news like creeping in and influencing how I react to things. I thought it was really interesting. Like, we get Leviathan like coming into power or coming back into power, and they seem like it's very cold. It's like a very Cold War-esque type of vibe, right? It actually reminds me of like Civil War. Where like the Russians have Bucky and they have like the code words, but a bunch of them are on ice. So maybe they got that from this. I don't know. I thought it was really interesting though, because Hydra, they even have a few pages in here where they talk about how Hydra is obviously like deep rooted in German and Japanese like ideology and tactics. And then you see how Leviathan is obviously very rooted, or at least based off of extreme Russian, KGB maybe almost tactics. So I appreciated seeing kind of like those real world influences. Obviously, Marvel being funny books and comic books, they take it up a notch. And, Hydra's got tentacle guys as their bad guys, but I did appreciate that. It's like, oh, Hydra's, fascist Germany and imperialist Japan, and then Leviathan is like communist Russia. So I was like, okay, that's, kind of put it into some real world analogies a little bit. I kind of appreciated that.
Yeah, the additional like emphasis on like origin and culture and fusing them in there, really does make it feel more lived in, like it was like, okay, this really feels like it's coming out of that environment. As good as the concepts are and the storytelling and the plot is, I think most of us would have took it for what was presented, but just based off the fact that additional research and that additional care was put into really steeping this plot into the cultures of the different organizations that are, are represented here. Chef's kiss.
Yeah. And also, I mean, just the fact that Leviathan, I mean, you can tell even reading this is like their first big appearance in the story so far. And like, you can tell like they're very much, it's like, during the Cold War, the big thing was, look, the Russians will have like sleeper agents, right? They can just be asleep or dormant for long periods of time. They play the long game. Like it's a waiting game. And then when the time's right, boom, they surface, they come out. We saw that with Contessa. All of Contessa, we find out like her parents were Leviathan and she went dormant for years with as far as Leviathan was concerned. And then we find out they had like Orion and all these other agents on ice. So the fact that they even incorporated some of those real world tactics and inserted them into the story, I really appreciated that.
And there was even like discussion, I can't remember exactly where, but there was a discussion about patience. I think it might have been when Fury and Contessa had dinner. I think the topic of patience came up, and it did lend to the long game, and her, being that sleeper agent and then surfacing, at the right time, like you just said. So it's all in there. Like
Yeah.
there's so much subtext and like so many undertones that you could really miss them if you didn't dive. But that's part of the reason why I'm glad we do these discussions, because that's some of the stuff that like I felt, but I like, or I saw, like I felt, but I didn't see, or give my attention over to that, and you calling out all that stuff just helps me get more out of the book. All right, Twin, it's that time.
Yeah.
Closing time, so it's closing thoughts. What are you feeling? What are you thinking? What's the haps? The volume. How did it hit after we've spoken about it?
Man, it's so good. It's just, I'm rearing up, man. I'm like a driver waiting for the green light, like kind of just tapping the gas pedal, just rev it, like I'm ready to go at the word go as far as the next volume is concerned. Like I want to pick it up right away. I want, find out what happens next with these characters, with the story, you know, what will Hickman have in this next volume? Who's gonna die, get double crossed, come back, and be revealed to be a quadruple agent? I don't know, but yeah, I'm loving this so far. And I'm I know it was Hickman's first major book at Marvel, his first book actually at Marvel, period. So I'm not going to say that I expected less of him than what he did with Fantastic Four or Avengers, but I just don't know that I thought it would be this good. And so I'm really, really pleased that I'm liking it as much as I am. Can't wait to dig into what comes next.
I'm in a bit of a similar boat, with the exception of, I do know what happens. I do. I don't remember all the details because it's been some years since I read it, but yeah, I've read more Hickman now than I did at that time, and just seeing how he approached this, and of course the Nightly News came before this. So if you read the Nightly News, I held it up earlier. This was his first, official big debut story, published by Image Comics. You see that he can, he can get intricate. This story right here is quite intricate, and I'd be lying to you if I said the first time I read it, I understood all of the intricacies of it, but I got the general gist. I got the overall. And reading something like this, I can see how even from that to here, how he refined some things, clarified some things, still, was far from his final form, but still in good form with this story. But I just continue to be impressed how, a newer writer can come out so strong, so strong on their first showing, and not really let up, just continue to hold down this level of execution, this level of plot, this height of entertainment and interest, and really just elevate it and dare I say escalate it to the point where, as you continue this journey with us and as we get over, into Avengers and New Avengers, trying to keep in mind that, the Ultimate Universe stuff and obviously the Fantastic Four run happened in the middle, it makes total and complete sense that after he finished Secret Wars,
Mm-hmm.
he left Marvel. It really was a mic drop, and I couldn't imagine
Yeah.
what more he could have done. I mean, maybe he could have immediately gone over to Secret Warriors, but he was working a lot. He was doing a lot. He needed a break, and he had gotten his name up there. I mean, like, to where he really did need to go and make more money off of his indie series, which he had some going on at this time. He was pretty good about almost always having an indie series going on. I think there was a little bit of an absence after he got the Avengers and New Avengers stuff going, just because it was so involved and he
Mm-hmm.
was working with so many different people to build up to Secret Wars. But this man, this Jonathan Hickman guy, he's definitely one of our comic greats, and he's far from retiring and all that other stuff. But you got to put the respect on his name, even if you don't like him, if you don't love him like we do, or at least like I do. You got to respect him because he was bringing all he had and putting it into the comics, and the craziest, wackiest comic book ideas, he was realizing them, for our entertainment. And it's why he's, my favorite writer B. Someone did surpass him in my book. W. Maxwell Prince has my 1A right now, but I put them side by side, and
Okay.
maybe W. Maxwell Prince is just like a hair or like a big toe in front of Jonathan Hickman, but not enough. Just a big toe, but not enough for I could say Hickman is number 2. WMP is number 1. They're 1A and 1B in my book. But those are
I like that 1A and
you like
1B.
that? Yeah, you could do that. There's no
like
rules
that.
to this. You can do a 1A and 1B.
Yeah.
You can do a
Absolutely.
you could do a 1A through 1Z if you wanted to. There's no rules to this. No rules at all.
You get 26 ones.
26 number 1s. Why not? That's what they're doing with variant covers
Why?
these days, right?
You're right. You're right, though.
Anyhow, thank you all for joining us for Secret Warriors Volume 3, Wake the Beast. It's always a pleasure to have everyone along for the ride. Really, really, really felt the absence of Ash Vaughn Comics on this one, but
Yep.
I really hope that he will be with us for the next one. So Ash, if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, get caught up. If you're not caught up yet, come and join us on the next one. Either way, hope to have a lot of y'all here. Thanks for being so patient with us. This is my fantastic twin over here. We look exactly the same. Say hi to the people, Zach. Or bye.
Hi and bye to you awesome people. Thank you for joining us this evening or afternoon, whatever your time zone is, as we go through the awesome, exciting, heart-pounding adventures of the Secret Warriors by Jonathan Hickman.
Indeed.
Hopefully we'll see y'all next time.
Hopefully we do this live on twitch.tv/Skipintosh, SKIPNTOSH. The link should be down there if you're watching this on YouTube. So please join us live. We only say bye to say hi again. So hi again.